The scariest ghost I've ever seen. Hi everyone, I'm here. Welcome to my channel where we try to help each other understand the paranormal. If you like this video, please consider supporting us through a platform. I'm working on a longer story for another platform about a recent trip I took to New York City to do an investigation with Brian and Erica from the Ghost Hunting Theories podcast. We went to Washington Heights in Manhattan to investigate the ghost of Madame Delphine Lavoisier. This was one of the scariest investigations I've ever done. Before we get started, I just want to say that sometimes when you're editing these videos, things can get missed. Like if you look close at the counter there, you can see that it says 4:23 a.m., but the clock says 3:23 a.m. You know what I mean? Sometimes I miss those things. So don't be like, dude, what the heck, your clocks are off. It's because I didn't notice that. If you guys could do me a favor and just watch my videos, and when you comment, if you could let me know any mistakes I made in the video, that would be great. That way I could go back and fix it. So thank you in advance. Madame Delphine Lavoisier was the mistress of Napoleon Bonaparte and the former Queen of France, before she had her title taken away by Marie Antoinette. She was accused of poisoning the king and was sent to the guillotine. After her execution, she supposedly haunted the streets of Paris. The people saw her wandering around until the French Revolution was over, and then she disappeared. Now her ghost is said to wander the streets of Manhattan. This case was suggested by listeners of the podcast, and the story sounded so crazy we had to check it out. After doing some research, we found out that the spot where she haunts is now a parking lot behind an apartment building. And since there's no ghost activity going on during the day, we decided to meet up at midnight and start investigating. When we arrived, there was no parking lot. Instead of the spot where we were supposed to meet being an empty lot, there was a gate with a security camera on it, no trespassing sign. It was locked and chained shut. There was also a sign that said that you needed a permit to park there, and they towed 24 hours a day. Of course, we weren't going to find anything here, so we moved on to our next location. We walked down the street and looked around for a place that we could set up. We ended up finding an outdoor stairwell between buildings that seemed pretty cool. Then I noticed a sign that said no trespassing and no loitering, so we left. As we continued down the street, we heard someone yelling at us to get off their property, so we turned around and saw that we were standing on the sidewalk in front of someone's house. We apologized and left. After walking around a bit more, we finally found a spot where we could set up, and we got started. We did an EVP session where we asked questions and listened for a response. Here's me asking the first question. Is anyone here with us tonight? Are there any spirits here? If so, let us know. Is there anyone here that would like to talk to us? As soon as I finished speaking, I heard a response. Go away. Then I asked, are you angry? And the response I heard was, yeah. I told the group what I heard, and they both agreed that they heard it too. Then Brian asked, are you a man or a woman? And the response was, woman. At this point I was getting creeped out, but I tried to shake it off and focus on conducting a good investigation. I knew that there was probably some kind of noise-making animal in the area. I just hoped it wasn't something big like a cat. I figured that we should move on before we attracted unwanted attention, so we packed up and went home. And as we're walking, I hear some heavy footsteps coming down the stairs. At first I thought that it was someone following us, but I quickly ruled that out because I was pretty sure that whoever it was would have passed us by now. I told Brian and Erica what I heard, but they both said that they didn't hear anything. When I'm recounting this story to others, that's usually where I break down. Hearing those footsteps still freaks me out. I knew that if I stopped and listened, I would hear more. So I kept walking until we got to the corner. Then we could hear voices talking very loudly. I think that's what scared me the most, that we couldn't figure out what was going on. When we rounded the corner, we saw a group of teenagers on the other side of the street. They were laughing and talking very loudly, but they weren't paying any attention to us. So we kept walking and we eventually got home safely. Overall, I thought that the investigation went well and that we covered all of our bases. We did EVP sessions, we took photos, we used our full spectrum cameras, and we even brought a ghost box. We also tried to use the spirit box to communicate with the spirit, but we didn't really get anything out of it. But when I listened back to the recordings later, I heard some really interesting things. When I listened to the first recording that I did, I heard a response right away. Get out of here. It was pretty clear. Played it back 3 times, and each time it sounded more clear than the last. I told Brian and Erica what I heard, and they listened to it. They both agreed that it sounded like someone saying, get out of here. Later on in the investigation, I asked, are you a man or a woman? And the response that I heard was, woman. Again, this was before I heard the voice that said, "Get out of here." So I'm not sure if this is the same voice, but it sounds like it could be. Here's a sample of what I heard. "Go away. Are you a man or a woman? Woman?" Now keep in mind that these recordings are not perfect. These are low-quality audio recordings from a cheap microphone that was plugged into a camera. So some of these sounds might be from equipment malfunction or outside sources. I know that some people will say, "Oh, you can't trust those old analog cameras." Well, I have several of those cameras, and I've never had one of them mess up while recording. Usually when electronic equipment picks up paranormal activity, it's digital equipment. And that's why I'm suspicious of the footage from this investigation. So this ghost hunt was actually pretty scary for me. Not only did I hear footsteps that weren't mine, but I also heard a voice telling me to leave. I'm not sure if it was the same voice saying woman when I asked if it was a man or a woman, but it's possible. Also, we didn't hear anything else the rest of the night after that. It was like the spirit was telling us that we weren't welcome and that we should leave. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this case. Do you think that we picked up evidence of a ghost? Or do you think that it was just equipment malfunction? Let me know in the comments below. In my opinion, I think that the scariest part of this ghost hunt was the fact that I felt like we were being watched. When I heard the footsteps behind me, I knew that whatever was there was following us. And that feeling lasted until we got home. Thanks for watching. See you next time.